Ladies and gentlemen, boys and the girls, welcome to the Reissue. Joined here by Ben Thomas from the Ben Thomas Show and Marco G, the Six Scale Scoundrel 166. We're also joined by Dr. Equan. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So guys, we've had this kind of idea running around in our heads for a while, and I'm very excited for this. Typically on our own shows, we'll talk about things, but with the scope of what we talk about, how often we do them, sometimes we have to kind of breeze through some things, or we don't get to spend as much time on things, or in my case, the thing I'm talking about today, I don't even talk about that on my show. I don't want to make its own video about it. And so I thought it would be nice for us to have a show where we can take deep dives on figures, take deeper dives on different lines. Obviously, Ben's big fan of Star Trek, and there's so many really cool Star Trek stuff that's coming out. We also are just going to talk about things that, like sports figures. We talked about them a few times on CW, but they typically, not everyone is into the sports ball on CW. And so, we're going to talk about things like that as well. But Marco, we're also going to release this in kind of a special way. So do you want to talk about how we're releasing the show?
Yeah, so I think we kicked around a few ideas on how to multicast this stream, but I think we're going to release it on all of our channels. So it'll be a live stream on Collecting Weekly, and then just right after the show ends, it'll be uploaded on 16fix and on the Ben Thomas Show. So this will kind of be a cross-channel collaboration. So yeah, really interested to know if that's working for people. So please give us feedback as you watch this if that setup is working well for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but obviously we do audio platforms, and then Marco does as well for his show. So we'll be releasing the audio fairly simultaneously as well. So I think, we have some great shows in the community that are multi-channel shows, but I always find it hard to I like to binge stuff. I'll put stuff on in the background, and if I'm watching episode 1 of a show and I have autoplay on it, it's usually not smart enough to pick up episode 2 on a different channel and then episode 3 on a different channel. You're constantly hunting between all the different hosts to find out who has what on what channel. And so I think just to make it easy, if Marco gets a few views on this, and then Ben gets a few views on this, and I get a few views on this, I think it's better than just one channel, because we've all put in a tremendous amount of work for the show. So I think it'll be a good idea, and especially for Ben, I know Star Trek is really hot in the community right now. We don't get to talk about it enough on CW. So
I try and force it in there a little bit sometimes.
We do get to talk about it enough, but,
Yeah, I think some people might say we talk about it too much. But yeah, let's roll the intro. I don't want to make this last any longer.
I'm excited for everyone to see this intro.
Oh, this is we worked on this so hard, years of our research and development into this intro. So enjoy the intro, guys. We'll be right back.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. And another one.
Let's ride.
I fucking love everything about that intro.
So good.
Oh, I love everything about that intro. Holy Jesus. I love it. Anyways, so Equan's here. So we've been getting real into the Enterbay figures, and I think it started with Marco. He bought the hoop with no basketball figures, which is probably hilarious.
Sometimes a deal comes along that's too good to pass up.
Yeah, and then the deal got better, and then you had to get a refund or a money back guarantee or something like that. What happened with that?
Yeah, so I bought it, and then I immediately saw it went cheaper. And, I'm a guy who will have buyer's remorse immediately. I want the best deal. And so I saw that they had a 15-day money-back guarantee called Entertainment Earth. They gave me a refund. It was awesome. So even better deal than I initially signed up for.
Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. So Equan, do you want to tell us the story behind this figure, how you got it? Because you got an absolute steal on this figure.
Okay. Actually, let me tell you about the hoop thing, too. So I bought it from Entertainment Earth as well, but it went all the way down to $99. And I was
What?
oh, my God. So then I I emailed them, and then they refunded me the difference as well. But I think it's
Equan, you
sold
got to
out
give
now
me a
or
heads up
something.
on these things. Come on, if you saw it
Oh,
at
this was like
99 bucks.
This was like maybe 5 days ago, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
Okay, recently.
But anyway, for this also started with Marco as well, because for the figure, there are 2 figures I was looking for. One was the 2-pack Kobe, which I'm still on the hunt for, and then the 2-pack Jordan away uniforms. So
Equan and I
we
are
do-
always enabling each other.
Yeah. Oh my God, the amount of money I spend just when Marco speaks. Anyway,
bad.
So I put in a bid for $350 for Jordan, and what you do is basically how StockX works is how you put in a bid, and then a seller can accept your bid, and there's like fees. There's like StockX fees, shipping fees, tax, and all that. So in the end, I think it came to like around $400 to get the 2-pack Jordan, and usually it's like $560 for retail. So I think I got a good deal off of it. So yeah, that's how it worked out. I'm still waiting,
Yeah,
hoping on
that's-
Kobe though.
That's a killer deal. I want that 2-pack on BBTS. It's just so expensive that I can't pull the trigger, and then you go and pull off this amazing deal on StockX, and I
What
keep
is
trying
it
to
on
replicate it.
BBTS?
I'll look really quick.
It's like 5. Let's see. It is 569.
And it's in stock on
570.
BBTS?
No, it sells out pretty quickly. I check it daily. Once in a while, it'll come into stock, and then
Yeah.
I'll text Marco, and by the time he sees it, it's sold out. So
I was going to say, when I liked how quick you were able to reference that price. Like, that was one button click away.
You
That
always
is
got to know.
professionalism right there, good
Macro.
sir.
I got all the
Professional.
deals bookmarked.
So what do we got here? This is the Enterbay 2-pack Jordan. And
So
tell us what we got.
So on the left, I mean, it comes with 2 figures. I'm not too familiar with Enterbay, but not a lot of them come naked, so you have to put on everything. So knee pads, socks, uniforms, and then the warm-up jersey or warm-up pants under the shorts. So the left one is the 85 Jordan with the short shorts and the 80 Chicago uniform and his necklace. And then on top of that comes with the workout outfit. So with the workout outfit, they're actually Velcro, so you can actually rip them off like players do in the games. And then he also comes with a pair of white socks and white armbands. And then I put some sticky tack on that ball to have him, basically try to spin the ball with one finger.
Oh, that's
and-
clean.
That's such a great pose.
And then on the right side is the 98 Jordan. And then you can see on the base it says last shot 98. And so this one came with the warm-up shorts. The other one didn't. I guess they didn't wear warm-up shorts in the 80s or something. But he came with all you can see here. If you can see on the hand, he's palming that basketball. I didn't use sticky tack or anything. They're actually magnetic.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about
cool.
that part. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
What's really cool about this set, I think, is the box. Like, you have the final edition with the signature on the front, and then you have like the history of 1985 to 1998, and it gives like a breakdown of his life. So the Air Jordan shoe design was introduced by Nike, NBA Defensive Player of the Year, just some different accolades that he's achieved throughout his career. Ending with 98 finals most valuable player, averaged 33.5 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists to lead the Bulls to a 4-2 victory over the Utah Jazz for his 6th NBA Finals MVP. Jesus, Equan.
oh, sorry,
Yes.
that was loud.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
And so I've actually secured this figure. I got a great deal from a local retailer, and
Oh, you got it, you son of a gun.
I've secured it. I haven't paid for it yet, but we've
Okay.
come to an agreement on a price. Now, the one that I'm getting, I think the 85 version has a broken joint at the arm, so I got to figure out how to deal with that. But it's also, the joint is the left arm where it's hidden by that sleeve, so I just got to figure out what to do. I have a few ideas, but I'm definitely excited to be able to have that in the collection. But what's really cool about this set is it comes with every pair of Jordans 1 through 14, or is that 15, 16? 1 through 14, I think. And
This is the biggest selling point for me right here. This
Yeah.
is why I want this set.
it's incredible, and all of these are super accurate. Like it's almost like they scan the sneaker, and then like even like the parts of the shoe that are supposed to be transparent with like the air units, like those are actually transparent on the figure. It's freaking incredible. So Equan, which it looks like you used the first and the last Jordans. Do you plan
Yeah.
to
So
put any of the other ones on?
No, hell no. I'll kind of go into a little bit in detail in that. So for the 85, I put the Jordan 1s on because that's more accurate. It started around the 85 that he wore the Jordan 1s. And then the last figure I put on the Jordan 14s. He wore mainly the 13s throughout most of the season, but then in the finals he wore the 14s. So I figured I'd just put the last one on, and the rest I just kept in there. The reason is with these I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with Enterbay shoe or figures with the feet, but the pegs are really long, and they don't peg in like normal 1/6 figures. They don't peg directly down, so you have to actually put it at like a 45-degree angle. You have to slip it in, push down on the feet, and then slip it forward, and then push down further until you hear like a audible like click, and then you know you're all the way in.
Interesting.
Wow. Okay. We're still talking about shoes,
Yeah.
right?
This applies to like life, really.
Pretty much everything. So do they do it like that to make this like the joint less unsightly? Like it kind of hides the peg a little bit more.
Yeah, but you can't see the peg at all. Two things do it. It's the socks and then the joint system. But then I guess that could be why. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at like a Hot Toys figure, they have like really terrible ankles usually. Obviously, they're not intended to be seen, but I really hate the way that they are, but they're aesthetically like really, really nice. It is a huge pain in the ass to take the shoes on and off, but yeah, the I think the end result is worth it, and the articulation isn't bad, to be honest. Even Mario says installing the shoes is a nightmare. Yeah, it's an absolute pain. It literally took me half an hour to put LeBron shoes on, and I'll talk about LeBron here in a second. But there's a good comparison shot there. Obviously, these are NBA figures, so they're a little bit taller than your typical 1/6 scale figures. So I'm really excited. I honestly couldn't believe that I was able to secure this set. I just got to work out the finer details with that retailer. And
You don't need two Jordans though, right? Like I think you could probably part with one of them.
Probably
Yeah,
just
well.
eat the 85, right? That's it.
Gonna have
There
it.
you go.
I'm so excited though. I rewatched the documentary just to, kind of get myself hyped up for it, and I'm really excited. So definitely can't wait to pick this one up. Now,
What's the name of the documentary? Is it Last?
what is it? I don't know. I've watched it
Last
twice. I think it is The
Dance?
Last Dance. Yeah,
Last Dance, there you go.
I was
Okay.
thinking Last Shot.
It's
but yeah,
not Save the Last Dance, I can tell you that. I
There
searched
you
for
go.
that. That's
Watched the wrong
weird.
documentary.
That's a way different.
Yeah, look at this. So there's a detail on the motif on the base. You also get that certificate of authenticity, numbered also, which is really nice. Yeah, this is really, really exciting. And yeah, so I have here the LeBron James figure. Now, we talked about this on, excuse me, on CW, the network website. I got this at a crazy deal. It was I think it was $129, and I was like, there's no way this could go any cheaper. And surprise, surprise, it did. Last week, I want to say it was like Saturday of last week. This went down to $50, from $350 down to $50, and it sold out like instantly. It was up there for a few days. I wanted to pull the trigger, but it was just kind of a bad time for me. But I mean, for $50, like, is an insane deal. I know Equan and Marco got theirs. They also had the Shack for 50. That one sold out pretty quickly as well. I think it was like a pre-Black Friday sale they were having.
$50 is just insanity on this thing.
Yeah, and what's
I'd
really
be worried I was
crazy,
getting scammed, honestly.
yeah, what's really crazy is like you can't even buy like the trophies or the body or the shoes for $50, let alone the whole figure. So this is the network exclusive LeBron. I think Enterbay is really an interesting company. Like, you know, the fact that they have all these tattoos, they're accurate. I think they scan the tattoos in, which is really cool. Even like on the hands have the tattoos on there. Going down here on the figure, you can see the shoes looking really nice there. These are the shoes that I guess he wore a few seasons ago. But like I said, you have like that transparency in the ankles, which is really cool on the bottom shoe with the, I don't know if they call it the air unit anymore, but I mean, the shoes are like fully detailed.
That's amazing.
Even down to like the socks with the NBA logo. Fortunately, this character hides the joints pretty well. Obviously, LeBron, with this season, he wore the compression pants and then also the right, the arm guard there. So really the only joints you have visible on this figure are the left arm, which, you know, it's pretty easy to hide by just bending it. I don't think it looks too bad. And then here, I want to go and look out for almost like braces rubber bands. I feel like that would be a good substitute for like some games he does wear like little rubber bands on his wrist. So I think that would help kind of hide this joint a bit better. But man, this is a really cool figure. One thing I would point out though, which is a thing that Enterbay struggles with a lot, and let's be honest, Hot Toys struggles with it. Even on CW, we're going to talk about So Toy struggles with it, is dies interacting with things on the figure. So in this case here, the Lakers logo on the shorts, if you kind of bring it in, you can see it's kind of stained purple a little bit. It should be white on the perimeter. But for the price I paid for it, and for a lot of people that got it for $50, it's pretty easy to overlook. But the portrait looks pretty good. The paintwork is pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's Hot Toys quality paint, but the level of detail here, you know, everything from the I wouldn't say iron on, but like the jersey has like that three-dimensional stuff to it where the numbers and the logos are sort of popped out a bit. You got the Kobe Bryant patch there on the right here above the Nike logo. Even has the Wish logo. They were sponsored by Wish that season, which is pretty neat. And yeah, this is such a cool figure. Now the network exclusive version does come with the, I guess the home jersey, away jersey. It's the white jersey, so you can swap that out. You also get 4 of the Larry O'Brien trophies, several hands, and then the pre-game warm-up stuff. Now,
How's that warm up?
I haven't got to put it on yet, but it looks fucking awesome. If I was able to get a second one, I would have been, you know, that's how I would have displayed it.
Yeah, I think that's how I want to display mine, honestly.
There's a look at the magnet system. It works really well. And yeah, I'm hoping to get a hoop for him. I think that would be really cool. But I'm thinking to get the Giannis, so I think it would be cool to have both, you know, LeBron and Giannis. And look at this. Let's take a look at this hoop. I think it's huge.
Yeah, so it's just massive. There's not much to like showcase here because there's not an insane amount of detail. It's just fucking big. So for the longest time I had. What was that?
Is the battery in there?
The battery's not
the
in there,
shot
but the
clock?
shot clock, yeah, it does have the battery as well. So, yeah, for I think about $150 is what I got this for, to add the LeBron finally. So I had the hoop without a figure for a long time, but it's beautiful. Like it's just really, really nicely done. Very simple, but overall, I think I'd recommend the hoop if you can find it for a good deal. So yeah.
What kind of battery does it use, Marco? Like is it
that's
like
a
a
good
double
question.
A or?
I think it's
Not one of
just,
those little watch batteries or anything. So
No, it's like double or single A. So it's got the little
sweet.
compartment back there.
It'll last.
I think it's three AAA actually,
Nice.
God damn.
and then a few different settings up here.
Is it
So
is it possible? Chat wants to see this in action. Is it possible that we can maybe get a battery installed before the end of the show?
I don't think I have AAA, unfortunately.
You fucking guy.
Yeah, I'll look
Okay.
to see if I do.
Run to
but
the store, G.
Maybe post it on. Maybe we'll post it on Ox after the show.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's really neat. So obviously this show is called the Reissue, and so we're going to talk some figure stuff here. Let me just close out that camera. We're going to take a deep dive on figures, month to month. This is a monthly show, so we will obviously start with the Mark V. I think that's an interesting figure. And when we say like reissue roundup, like obviously a lot of these are remakes, older versions of figures that were modernized. And then some of them are actually reissues. So we're kind of being a bit vague with the term here, but I think the Mark V is such an interesting release. So we start with MMS 145. This is the first Mark V that Hot Toys had done. This one was released around Q3 of 2011. And really, I actually don't hate this figure. I think this figure had aged particularly well. You got some battle damage parts in the chest, in the left arm. I think it's not too bad of a figure. Just kind of scrolling through, you can see they're kind of partnered with, their Whiplash figure. And I didn't hate this. You got the briefcase. Like I mentioned, you have those two separate arms. I think the only thing missing from this was a portrait, to be honest. But what do you guys think about this? This is their first Mark V, again, MMS 145.
Dude, I love the coloration on this. So for me, like, I try to not have too many of the same characters in my collection. I'm definitely not like an armor collector. But for the figures that I have behind me, it has that red and gold theme to it, right? With the red and the silver, I think it's got enough of a separation that it would definitely feel kind of like its own figure in my collection and kind of a standout piece. The other thing that I love is that, like, this is such an iconic scene, such a badass suit. The way it, like, kind of builds around Tony as he's being attacked. I think it's fantastic. The briefcase, even, how it kind of comes out of the suit, really, really cool look. The figure himself looks a little skinny. I don't know if maybe you guys feel that way too, or if it's maybe just the picture I'm looking at. But
he does look like tall and thin.
Yeah, a little thin. That would probably be my only criticism, though, because otherwise I think it's an absolutely beautiful option. And I've seen this guy going for pretty low cost now with some of the Black Friday sales that are floating around out there. Not that there's very many good ones, to be honest, but this is one that I have been considering. It keeps going kind of in and out of my basket, so we'll see if I pull the trigger or not.
Yeah, I remember I used to own this one.
Oh no, sorry. Just remember, this is the original one. So the ones that you're saying on Black Friday, they would be like that would be the one we'll talk about here in a second. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about like the plastic one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the plastic one.
Yeah, I remember I had this one a long time ago. Like it was one of the first ones I had, and I remember I had this and then the diecast Mark III. And I remember this one being really skinny compared to the Mark III. And then eventually they had the diecast one out. I sold this one immediately, and it kind of scaled a little better. But in the end, this looks great. I mean, even though it being plastic, it doesn't look too plasticky. So
that's great to have that background. And yeah, no, I think from these images, I haven't seen this one in person, but I really appreciate that Hot Toys was attempting to give you some battle damage swap outs. So that's kind of something that's missing with a lot of their modern releases. I know that the reissue, which we'll talk about in a second, kind of has some of those components, but I do love the idea that you could kind of put the full battle damaged arm on and the chest plate. That's really awesome.
Absolutely. Now, I don't think that this figure had this issue, but it's important to note, like when you're looking at the older Iron Man figures, you always want to look for something called the pink panty issue. Basically, like the figure material back then was plastic, obviously, but the sort of crotch area was made of like a rubber type material, and over time the paint would fade like really, really bad on these. And the repair for this is really difficult. You basically have to strip the rubber and then repaint it, and it obviously matching a factory paint job isn't like a particularly easy task. So if you're buying into some of these older Iron Man figures like the Mark III or the Mark IV, again, I looked up for about 30 minutes. I couldn't find any Mark V's that had this issue, but just be careful if you're buying these older figures. Definitely ask for pictures of the figure in good lighting, because it is something that you should be aware of. Now this was remade for the MMS 400 D18 and this was a release of Q4 2017 to Q1 2018. This was quite the upgrade, and honestly, figure wise, a lot of people, this was a lot of people's grail Iron Man suit, right? This is, once it's sold out, I mean, you couldn't touch this figure less than $700, excuse me.
Zach,
Even,
and the previous release didn't come with the head sculpt, but this one did, right?
yeah, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay,
But
okay.
yeah, this one I've seen it sell in the past as high as like 1,000. Like it was quite expensive to get. So much so that it was actually reissued, or two, they kind of remade a second batch, and I think that really kind of killed the market on this one. But this one has a ton of neat options. You obviously get a little bit of diecast in the mix. You get some articulating panels. You get the I guess like the Whiplash arc reactor to partner with it. This one did have a portrait. This portrait was revealed pretty late. It was one of those ones where they blur out the portrait for the pre-order, and then right at the end when it's released, they kind of throw in that edited shot. You do get some swap out battle damage parts. Not as many, I think, as the first release. And honestly, I think the base is a step down, to be honest. But this is a great figure. But the weird thing is it's so tall. I know you guys mentioned that the other one looks pretty tall, but the Mark V is supposed to be like a pretty bare bones suit. Like it's, not, I don't really think it's supposed to make him that much taller or that much beefier. But I actually preferred the proportions of the MMS 145. I think aesthetically, I think it looks a little bit better, to be honest, in terms of the height and the proportions. But this was, I think, one of the first times Hot Toys ever did like a side by side. Like, look at how shitty our old figure looked compared to the new one. And I think it's such a weird thing to do, to be honest, because I think up to that point, I think people were pretty happy with the 145, but they just wanted it to add some die cast to that figure.
For sure. I can see it though as being like trying to justify having a reason for the reissue, right? This time, like my PTSD around Chrome Mando still exists, but this feels like still like a noticeable change from that first version that we looked at. And I don't mind the height, especially if it compares more to, more modern day releases now, right? Because I would imagine that first plastic version would look pretty tiny now in comparison to some of the ones that we've got coming out. So I can see what you mean in terms of proportions, but I do think that even just from the photos that we saw there, kind of the past release to this one was a pretty noticeable change. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, usually, so this one is taller than the Mark III diecast. I kind of noticed that immediately. Sorry if there's crying. Sorry about that. But
No, you're good, Equa.
no, but I haven't actually. I have the Mark 7, but I still haven't unboxed it yet. But I'm just curious to see how tall it is compared to that one as well. So I don't know if anyone's done that
This
yet.
one is really tall. I think it's like one of the taller Iron Man figures. Which again, this is supposed to be like a bare bones suit. It's kind of weird that he's super tall. But I want to say, I could be wrong here, but I think this was like when they started introducing that new scaling for the Iron Mans, where they started to all get really tall, where it became like super noticeable in the collection if you had the older ones. But yeah, this was an interesting figure, and like I said, it went up to about $800 to $1,000 before Hot Toys stepped in and reissued it, and obviously that was not without controversy. But I think at that point, when the price gets that high, I think if you had it, I think it. I always say, like, anytime a Hot Toys gets like 2-3 times above retail, I think if you have it, I think you're kind of playing with fire, holding on to it. We've seen it time and time again. The Mark 46, obviously the Dark Side Anakin is maybe at risk of that reissue.
The
coming
47
right around
as
the
well.
corner. 47, yeah, that one was crazy too. That one was really expensive. Yeah, this is one that is a true reissue. Like I said, they released it and then kind of sold out after a while, and it got quite hot. But Marco, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, so I love this 2.0 that they did, right? This original 2.0. Like Ben was kind of alluding to, it's like a brand new figure. It's like it gave them justification to go back and make a brand new release. It's like it feels warranted. Obviously, they're adding the die cast. They added the portrait. So these are the type of like 2.0s or reissues that I really love, because it's like, okay, obviously acknowledging that the old release was very outdated, and they've got a lot of new technology. So yeah, a big fan. And they also bulked him up, like Ben was saying. He was skinny, and so now they've really made the body look a lot better. And I will just say the silver and red look so good together. Like I have the 46 and 47, and I really want this too. I'm waiting for the price to drop a bit more, but yeah, of course, I always
How
am.
much more?
Yeah, hey, shoot,
like
man, soon.
270.
I know, right? Soon I'll be pulling the trigger. But yeah, the red and silver look so good together. Honestly, like I like the 47 a bit more than the 46, which I know is kind of controversial because everyone loves that 46. But that gunmetal silver is just so beautiful.
Does it? Okay, the picture on the right, maybe it's just my eyes or the computer screen, but does it look like he's wearing a pink thong in comparison to even the original plastic version? I know you said that the color match on the original wasn't great, but I'm getting the pink thong feel from this guy a little
I think
bit.
it looks more like underwearish in the right, because back then they were rubber on the again, like the panty section, but I think it led to the I guess like the seam between the joints on the hips being much tighter, because obviously that material is flexible and they can get those tolerances a little tighter. I think on the new figures they usually have those flaps that expand out to accommodate the articulation, but yeah, I'm seeing it a bit, bud.
Like that would, I think that would drive me a little nuts in the collection if you could still see that. You know, it literally looks like he's walking off the beach in a Speedo, but in his Iron Man suit. You know, that's cool.
Yeah,
Looks like he's
Now-
packing a little bit more on that round.
one could be so lucky.
A little
I
more
remember
than
this
3
one,
inches.
This one did get released and then after a few years reissued now. Up next, again, we're kind of treading into like different figure territory, but I think we're doing a deep dive on the Mark V, so I think we would be remiss to not mention this, but they did solicit. I don't think this one's been officially released yet. This is Q3 to Q4 2022, MMS 599 and MMS 600. Really interesting that the 400 slot and the 600 slot taken by a Mark V. So typically, or at least back in the day when I started collecting, everyone was always hyped every time we got to a big, like round number for the MMS. Like, oh my God, what's Hot Toys going to do next? So to dedicate 2 slots to this figure shows how important it is to their lineup. But this was an interesting figure. It's almost more like a race suit Tony, and then you kind of get like a few parts to like make a half suited up, not really super articulated Mark V. But this is a cool figure, honestly. I think the portrait on this one is one of their better portraits of Robert Downey Jr. I really like the hair on this one and the blood effect, and honestly, a pretty iconic scene with the race suit. I actually really like this figure. You do get that briefcase diorama that pops open, and it kind of reveals the beginning of the suit, which I think is super cool. I don't know how many people would actually pose their figure hunched over this briefcase like that, but overall, I think this is a very iconic moment in the film. And even though I don't love this figure like 100%, I think it's a really interesting concept. And you know, the fact that you can kind of pose him in that T-pose scene where the suit's kind of building itself around him. I'm actually really excited to see how this figure releases, to be honest.
Dude, I agree with that. Can you imagine if you like had the space in your display for like a rotating turntable? So you could have this guy
Fucking
kind of on
awesome.
one side, and as it turns, he suits up and has like the full suited version. That could look like a pretty badass display, especially if the Mark V is one of your favorite suits, if not your favorite. I'd 100% go with that option. But for me, I probably wouldn't get this guy specifically. I like the suited up versions more specifically for my collection. But this one's a banger figure. I can see why they put this out 100%.
I mean, first off, I think that's one of the best head sculpts I've ever seen. And secondly, I can see why they made this figure, mainly because I think the most iconic part of the suit is the suit up part of the suit. You can even go on YouTube and see like the views that the suit up of this specific armor gets views on. So I already have, but then again, I already have the Mark V, so I don't see the need to get this.
Yeah, so on that point though, so I do like this release a lot. It could have easily just been, the racetrack suit Tony Stark, and they wouldn't have innovated and gone above and beyond with like the suit up pieces. Like that's just really cool innovation, honestly. But it does lead to some paralysis by analysis, because it's like, well, which one do I get? Do I get, the 2.0 version? Do I get this? Do I wait to see if they, release in the US the one with the the race car diorama. Like there's just too many options when it comes to this figure. But this one's on my radar. If this one drops enough, we'll see what type of rules Hot Toys is using in terms of their runs when this finally releases. But if it sits just like the current Mark V is sitting, I could swoop this one up and at the very least just display him with the briefcase and with the race track suit.
Now, if they have like the like a 300 limited edition diorama Mark V, which one would you get? This or that?
I would probably get this one, to be honest. Like, if that one's limited, I don't think that the diorama really justifies the inflated price that, Sideshow will probably want, right? They'll probably tack on a, just like they did with the stealth suit cap. Because I'd rather get a bargain bin price Mark V 2.0 and just, like, not have the diorama at all.
Definitely. Now, Ben was talking about wearing a thong here, and on the left, that back shot of the race.
For the record, I wasn't talking about wearing a thong specifically.
Well, that's what I heard.
Put it out. Just rewind the tape.
Okay, Ben.
Oh, I can't unsee it
but
anymore.
look at that race suit on the back, dude. He's got cheeks for weeks, bro. He's got the top section leading down to the bottom.
Big selling point, to be honest.
Maybe not the best look there on the back, but yeah, this one hasn't come out yet, but this one looks awesome. And this one did have the deluxe version. Again, this was MMS $599 and $600, and the deluxe version is the suitcase here that you can fold up, and it has like that articulating sort of exploding function where you can pose them up with that.
That feels like a must-have accessory too, right? Like if you're if you're choosing between them, you kind of have to go deluxe on this one.
100%. Now, this is the most recent iteration of the Mark V. This one actually does have a different SKU. I know Marco's favorite word there. This is MMS 400 D18C. This is a Hot Toys exclusive. This is one that we haven't gotten over here at Sideshow just yet. And I want to say this was to celebrate one of their new store openings. But this is the Mark V with the racetrack diorama base. Obviously, we panned this one pretty bad with the size of the base, but I mean, essentially this is the exact same figure as the Mark V, with the exception that they've added a really too small base and like an eighth of a too small car. But functionally, figure wise, I want to say this is pretty much exactly the same as what we got with the MMS 400, which is obviously why it shares that sort of similar SKU. But this one seemed pretty unnecessary. Like I mentioned, we had just gotten the Mark V reissue about a year or two ago, and to then have it reissued as an exclusive with a weird base accessory is just, I don't know. This one's a weird one to me, to be honest.
We all need a good cake topper, okay? And that's what this reminds me of. Like one of those like fancy cake toppers on your 9th birthday party, or my 18th, let's be honest. However, I think the one criticism that I would have, not to pick it apart by any stretch, because I still think it's a really cool looking figure.
No, tear it apart, Ben.
It's just how different the head sculpt looks in this version versus that suit of one that we just looked at. Like that one looks like the scene, right? I mean, he's just climbed out of his race car, he's all disheveled, he doesn't like practically know where he is, and he's get protected really quickly. While this is still definitely a good battle damage version, even the hair doesn't match. So it's like this would detract from that display that I was talking about, where if you had it on a turntable, it could look really cool because it would look like a different scene almost entirely. It's like he styled his hair before he put his suit on, which doesn't really make sense. So it's weird to me that they've like continued to reissue the same figure and over, but aren't necessarily staying consistent with either it comes with a head sculpt or it does, and if it does, that they don't necessarily match. I think that's a little strange.
And I think part of that is, this is a, it's still MMS 400, right? So I think they had to stick with that portrait. Obviously, if they updated the portrait to the suit up version, I think you'd have a lot of people very upset, which obviously this made people very upset. So, people got upset either way, but I think you're 100% right. There's a certain shock in his face that I think the suit up version captures. This one looks like he's kind of just like ready for battle, which, obviously he's kind of trying to figure things out in the moment. And I really think that this portrait captures that much better.
Well, even just the hair is entirely different, like entirely. It looks like he
Yeah.
styled his hair before he
Yeah,
put
you're
his
not
suit
wrong.
on.
You're not wrong. So I think that's probably why we see this other portrait. But I gotta say about this figure, Marco,
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
I hate this figure. I hate everything.
Specifically the diorama base, right?
About it. So fucking stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, it looks like they're heading towards a diorama base for each figure at this point. It seems like a pattern.
Absolutely. But if they keep this as like the Shanghai store opening exclusive, that it's kind of like, on track to stay as, totally fine with. Like if you want to throw in a cool little accessory that is just kind of underwhelming and then make that exclusive to a territory, I think that's a totally fine way to add some value to a release that would have been, underwhelming otherwise. So, but if they release it in the United States, it's just going to be like, for what reason? What was the purpose here?
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest. But yeah, this has been our deep dive into the Mark V. Obviously, some real interesting releases. Started off with a banger with the MMS 145, but by this point, we have the 145, the 400, the 599 and 600, and then the 400 D18C, and then of course the reissue of the 400. So, lots of opportunities to get this figure. Lots of different types of releases. So, and especially right now, I think it was on sale. I think like 25% off on Sideshow. So, definitely a figure that I don't say fallen from grace, but when it used to be $1,000 and now you can pick it up for like 300, it's come a long way, to be honest. So.
That's like too big of a nut to swallow. Going from, can you imagine spending $1,000 to get the figure, and now you see it going for two? Oh, you hate to see it. Hurts my soul a little bit.
And
Absolutely.
Hot Toys has to know what they're doing, nuking the secondary market, right? Like as long as money's going into their pocket, I guess they're fine, but it's completely destroyed it.
Absolutely. Real quick, I do need to check in with the chat. My apologies. We got Duffat, Pablo Meza, Doc Smizzle, Mark P, Mr. Mom, Usby, Alvin J, Brenton. Hey guys. We also have Dean the Dream Marty. Says Mark was supposed to remind me SMH.
You hate to see it.
Dean, you're welcome to come in, my guy. You don't have to sit this one out. The Hot Toys Nightmare, Filthy Yoda, Mark P, Alvin J, Baby Boy, Doc Smizzle, and Philip the Fool, and Bloodsport. Welcome, guys. So next episode, we're going to talk Gandalf, so that'll be our deep dive. We'll go into all the different license releases of Gandalf. Maybe we'll touch on the Viper release. I'm not sure if I want to get into that one, but perhaps, because it did have a little bit of controversy about it when it was solicited. So, Marco, you were going to go in for your deep dive into the Mech test and then the 501st. So I'll let you take this away. Just let me know you want me to switch slides.
Yeah, so the Mech test, I know on Collecting Weekly, we kind of had some debate on whether this figure was warranted for a reissue. So I think kind of the fundamental question I want to try to tackle, and a lot of help from Justin's collection in terms of his side-by-side, just really, was this figure justified when it comes to this reissue? So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, I think it kind of shows the head sculpt of the 2.0 and then the older version. And so you kind of see, look at, like, they've come night and day from this head sculpt on the right to the one on the left. So for the sculpt alone, I think it warrants the reissue. It comes with some really cool exclusive accessories in terms of the faceplate with the signatures. In the arc reactor, it comes with dummy. Still, it's an expensive release, but not extremely overpriced for everything that you get. So if you go to the next slide, I think it shows both of them standing.
Yeah, real quick. First off, shout out to Justin. Perhaps used without permission, but we love Justin's collection here. I would say, though, on this portrait, I don't hate the original, if I'm being completely honest. I think that the one on the left looks like in-game Tony Stark, where he's got the bags under his eyes.
Shit. Yeah.
He's much older. And honestly, the one on the right is very much a caricature, I think, by today's standards. But it reminds me more of what he actually looked like in the movie. I mean, he wasn't young by any means, but I mean, he was not this old on the left, where he's got the bags under his eyes. He's got that real thinness in the face that you see in Endgame and Infinity War.
Sick.
Yeah, I don't really love this portrait if I'm being 100% honest. I don't love it.
I don't think you're wrong. I think it's definitely they've done better Tony Starks. Obviously, we just saw the suit up version. That's probably one of the stronger ones they've ever done. But I think overall it's a really beautiful figure. So
I think
I
that's
see
the last
Alvin
slide
J.
we had for this one.
Oh, got it. Okay, I think I put some more. But anyways, Alvin J was saying he's waiting for this one to go on bargain bin. I think I am too. If it drops to the right price, this is one that I'll definitely be adding. So it's not like a top to bottom restoration of the original release, but for the most part, they've added a decent sculpt, and like you said, a caricature is a good way to describe the one on the right. So I think it warrants a re-release.
Absolutely.
For that classic suit that we've seen, the classic suit one, that's like the comic version of the suit, as opposed to like the kind of more movie realistic. I feel like the head sculpt on the right would look badass for that figure, because that
Oh, yeah.
like the one on the right gives me kind of an animated vibe almost. I think that would look cool for that if you still had this old one in your collection and you ended up upgrading. I don't know if they'd be compatible, but it'd be cool to check out.
Definitely. Now we did also want to talk about the 501st, Marco. So tell me what we got here, because I think a lot of people were upset about this as well, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't understand why people are so upset about this figure.
Yeah, so I think this is a good comparison of what they've done with the body. But if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, or go one more, if you wouldn't mind, please. Right there, which kind of shows. So we got the deluxe 501st from Clone Wars on the right, and then this Obi-Wan Kenobi 501st Clone Trooper on the left here. So obviously a different paint application, different coloring, different body. The one on the left is $230. On the right, I think the deluxe was $250. So overall, different enough releases that I think that I'm okay with it personally. That they've at least gone through and done some retooling to make it more screen accurate to how you saw it in Obi-Wan. Now, I don't necessarily love the colors or the body, but I think it definitely justifies the release. And with a tease of another figure that may be coming out, these ones could be popular on the left here. So, but what do you guys think?
So for me, at first I was like, okay, maybe they're trolling a little bit. They're just kind of adding to the pot of money, right? Same. I thought it was the same figure, literally with just a different paint. When we dive into it a little bit more, the one on the left, so with the lighter blue option, that's now from the very first time we've seen real people in costume, as opposed to the one that we're seeing on the right hand side, which is actually more compared to kind of the animated verse or the CGI verse that we saw in Clone Wars, right? And so I think when it comes to CGI, the bodies always look a little bit on the slender side, and when you see them in cartoon, they're definitely a little bit more on the slender side. When you see this to me on the left, the newest one, looks more like a real dude in the suit, in my opinion. I also think for the folks that are, trooper collectors, if what you want to do is collect troopers and some Star Wars, and all of these other releases that we talk about week over week don't necessarily do it for you, and you're just excited about more troopers coming, this I think is for those folks, right? That's, they get another release to look forward to, which is really cool. I still think the color is nice. It just wouldn't, like, if you've already been somebody who's bought, 6 to 8 of the ones on the right, this might burn you a little bit, because now you're like, okay, well then how many of these should I get in order to army
Ben,
build
devil's
both
advocate
colors?
though, devil's advocate, there was going to be so many clones coming out. You would have already known. So if you really went deep on the Clone Wars version, you kind of had to know what you're in store for.
Totally. And so that's why I'm not really all that offended by this, I guess, is the point, right? So I think for as I said, for the folks who are trooper collectors, that's badass. I would like to see what this looks like, especially if it comes with a tease in that release. If we get another Anakin down the line, or even the past Anakin that people have spent all that money to get in their collections, I think this guy would look really, really cool. For me, I would be waiting on a bargain bin deal on this guy, especially since it's not a named commander, right? If it came down in price and it, was something that I wanted to add in combination with some of the old school troopers that I've got, I'd probably do one or two, and that would be about it to represent the Clone Wars, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't get the first 501st, I guess this is a different alternative. I didn't get it. I guess mainly because I didn't really think about it, and I noticed that the first TMS 22 was from the Clone Wars cartoon and not from Episode 3. So if you're like a real stickler for things, it might be weird to some if you paired these up with Anakin, because he's from Episode 3. He's from a movie instead of like the like realistic cartoon version. So I mean, you could. I think I'm gonna get this one, two of these with my Anakin, because these are more based on the live action show rather than the Clone Wars cartoon. So if you're a real stickler for that, I mean, that could be an option for you.
But if you're a real stickler, Equan, the head sculpt that they've teased for that Anakin has the glowing eyes, right? And did we not only really get to see the glowing eyes on Mustafar, not necessarily in the show? So, like, if they give us that version of Anakin, then is it still really being all
No,
that
you
true
still have to use the
itself?
light side one, that's for sure. But I mean, like, if you want to choose between live action and cartoon, that was the main thing.
100%. That makes sense.
But other than that, but you still do need the light side to go with these if you really want to be as accurate as
Scene
possible.
accurate.
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
One thing that's interesting to me, I just realized this, but the sort of belly armor is different. I didn't realize that. I mean, obviously, a lot of the armor is different, but it's missing those little dimples, the little dots. I just noticed. I think that's weird.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that before.
But yeah, 100%. This is the difference between a physical costume and the CGI version. So definitely interesting, and we'll see if we get a not a Mark 5, but the Hot Toys Dark Side Anakin reissue, especially since they've kind of teased it. Again, being in a photo doesn't mean that they're going to release it, but typically when they don't release it, sort of like Bespin Han in the past, it'll just kind of be like in the foreground, not necessarily the main focus of the photo. But to me, the fact that they showed him basically the sculpt and everything, they don't usually do that with other figures like that. And some people did zoom in on they did zoom in on the hilt there of Anakin, which is this photo here. And you could definitely see, I think that I want to say the ignition switch is a little different colored and the sculpt of the hilt is a little different. So a lot of people are kind of bracing themselves for that eventual re-release, reissue, etc. So Hot Toys Nightmare says, I'm a large clone collector with over 20 501st Deluxe. With the new 501st Legion, I have ordered one and might order one more. I want more clones from Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. So
Over 20, that's incredible. That's so
incredible.
cool.
For sure. And like, he's the type of person that I was talking about, right? Like, I'm excited for those folks who are still like, sweet, I can get another figure or two in my collection. That's something to look forward to. Pretty cool.
And the cool thing is that 501st Deluxe from Clone Wars has such good value. It comes with the jetpack. It comes with 3 different helmets, like multiple weapons. Like, I think that was such a great release. I missed out on that, but and I kind of regret. I was just like, it doesn't have a head sculpt, so I don't necessarily need it, but I would have loved to have a Phase 1 helmet with the jetpack.
Yeah, even this, the new 501st, compared with the standard previous 501st, this one doesn't come with a jetpack, and it's $10 more. So that's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah, I mean, also you're dealing with inflation, though. I mean, that is a thing. And with this armor, I think it's probably, I don't say it's right that it's more expensive, but this is a very niche armor sculpt that, maybe they'll do a clean version, but it's not like they're going to be able to use this for Episode 3 clones, right? This is basically maybe from the clones in Andor. I think they were the same sculpt. So, I mean, this is going to be a much more limited release, and they had to completely resculpt, I think, most of the armor. Whereas the other clones, like, that armor is the basis for all the commanders that they've made, all the paint variations they're going to make from Episode 3. So I don't mind this one being a little bit more expensive. And then also, obviously, things just cost more to buy these days. So, I guess in my in my head canon, I can kind of justify that a little bit. I'm 100% certain though that we're going to see a new Anakin. I think there's meat on the bone if they don't, which is unfortunate. I know there's a lot of people that have paid a lot of money for this figure. Unfortunate for them, but I think I think the overall community, I think this is one that a lot of people want to see come back.
Just like we talked about with the Mark V, though, right? Hot Toys wants to put that money into their pocket and not into the secondary sellers' pockets.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the cloak that he's wearing in this picture even is a little different than the previous release. So I feel like it's still a nod to the fact that it's probably coming. I don't think it's just a bait and switch by any stretch. Although I would say for some of the, the bad, I'm having a hard time saying this today, Black Friday sales that we've seen this year, I've been very uninspired by them. Troopers, we're getting enough troopers nowadays where it's like, those to me are the candidates for the buy one, get one 50% off, because I'd be more likely and more tempted to buy 2 of those than some of the other figures where I wouldn't want to pay full price for one if I could avoid it and get then only the second 50%. Troopers are great candidates for sale days. It's like, give us more just like day, one day or a couple days in a year where it's like trooper sale day and all troopers go on sale, and you can just kind of build a huge collection in one go if you had the money set aside for it. I think that would be cool to see.
Yeah, I've never put the hood on my Anakin, but do you guys remember if you can actually like fold it like that without the wire on his shoulders?
It's terrible. Honestly, I fucking hated the stock cloak. I want to say this is not the stock cloak that came with the other one. That's why part of why I think this is a new figure is the hood is much larger. The other one was almost like a hoodie. Like you were just like put the thing on and it just didn't really work with all that hair. But this looks more like the OSK, the 1/6 kit. They did a run of Jedi cloaks, and the hood on those was like huge, just like the movie. So I think you're right, and the color looks different too. To be honest, it looks a little bit more brown.
Looks lighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, since the first one was an exclusive, do you guys think they're going to do something like a 2-pack like that, Batman, Superman, or do something to be as different?
I guess it begs the question, like, what actually is the exclusive part? I think the base for sure, and the eyes, the eye coloring. I don't know if the eye coloring is enough to stop them from reissuing it, because obviously it did come out in that regular MMS fashion with the light side Anakin. So I don't know. I don't think they're gonna have to do anything gimmicky like a 2-pack to warrant it, to be honest. But I think people are going to be upset. Yeah, I think they absolutely can't touch that base again, because there's no reason, right? It was never on Mustafar and the Kenobi show, so I think to me that's got to be off the table. But it'll
Reva, I don't know.
Jesus Christ,
Wow.
that would be terrible. So I did want to go into for this show we each have our own little segments that we'll talk about. So the thing that really kind of shocked me over the past few months, and I've been trying to find an excuse to work into Collecting Weekly, but it's been quite difficult. So Magic the Gathering is celebrating its 30th anniversary, and this is from the website. To celebrate the 30 years of Magic the Gathering, we knew we had to go big. We had to create an experience for fans new and old that would be worthy of 3 decades of the original trading card game. We wanted a collectible, commemorative, jaw-dropping, mind-blowing thing that would cement itself in our collective memories as we look forward to the next 30 years of Magic. So they're entering the 30th anniversary edition. So when Magic came out, there was Alpha, Beta. Those are kind of like the first 2 sets. And some of these sets had some really powerful cards. They were called the Power 9. So these are cards that, back then the game was pretty crazy. There was cards like, take another turn, right? Or add 3 mana of any color to your mana pool. And even by today's standards, like even just adding 1 mana or like doing 1 extra thing on a turn, not a whole other turn, is like game breaking nowadays. So they're called the Power 9. And the Power 9 is a very expensive thing to purchase. And, they're part of, I'll show it here in a second, but they're part of a thing that Wizards of the Coast has, which is called the Reserve List. So, actually, I'll skip forward to that. So the Reserve List is cards that will never be reprinted in order to preserve their value on the secondary market. It was introduced in 1996, revised in 2002, and again in 2010. So in terms of reprinting, they define that as playable in tournaments reprinting. So they have reprinted them for the 20th anniversary of Magic. They reprinted all of the entire beta set, and you can get it, I think, for like $30 when it came out. Obviously, it's many hundreds of dollars now. But they were all proxies, right? So if you look at these cards here, the back of these cards is completely different than the normal back of a legitimate Magic card. And so these are not tournament legal cards, and that's kind of how they skate around that reserve list. Now, they did introduce Black Lotus. So again, this is one of those game-breaking cards. Essentially, it kind of accelerates you to turn 3 right off the bat. So these are non-tournament legal cards, and essentially the way that they're doing this is you'll buy a pack of these cards, and I want to say it's, let me see if I have it here. So it'll be 4 packs of these cards, and I just wanted to go through like what Magic costs, right? So to get 10 booster packs, you can get 10 booster packs and a bunch of lands for $37, right? So you're looking at about like $4 a pack if you were to go into Walmart and just pick up a pack. You know, nothing too crazy. I think like Pokemon cards are about that same price, and these are all for like legal cards, right? And again, this is for their 30th anniversary. So for $40, you can get a commander deck that's 100 cards with some kind of expensive cards kind of in there. So that's kind of why it's a little bit more of a premium price when you get like a playable deck right out of the box. So for this 30th anniversary, these are very limited production items. So even if you want one, you can't just get it. But the retail price for 4 packs of these is $1,000. And that has pissed off a lot of people. So featuring the original art that inspired the Magic fans, the 30th anniversary edition is built with modern sensibilities and nostalgic roots. 30th anniversary edition will be on sale for the holidays, available November 28th for $999 on 30th edition wizards.com. And with Magic growing tremendously throughout its past 30 years, we've gone back to our roots with a limited edition print run. Now, first and foremost, $1,000 is absolutely insane. One, because you're not guaranteed to get anything good. You could open all 4 of your packs in this box and receive no Power 9. In fact, there's a guy that has a website where you can sort of use the ratios that they've released, and you'll see how many packs you have to open to get a Power 9 set, and you're talking tens, like even like hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the 9 cards, which is crazy because you can actually just go out and buy, you know, really beat up copies that are actually usable of the Power 9 for less money than it would cost for you to open these proxy boxes. And a lot of people are fucking furious that this is $1,000. One, I think the price is a slap in the face to people that have supported Magic for 30 years. You know, if this was something that was $4 or $5 a pack, maybe even $10 a pack, and you could get 4 packs for $50, I think people would be much happier. It would open it up to the average collector and not the collector that has $1,000 to spend on Magic cards. But it is really offended a lot of Magic collectors, and I think Wizards of the Coast has a PR nightmare on their hands. And they've even said, like, just even if you have the money, it's likely you won't get one. Like, they're super limited print runs. And not only that, but they've gone and kind of slapped stores in the face, because stores won't really even be able to order these guaranteed, the stores that, you know, make Magic possible. But they were nice enough to say that they will send 1 to 2 copies complimentary to each store, which, again, if you're a store and you have you know, dozens or hundreds of players that shop your store, and they might only have 1 pack to give or to sell or to do whatever they want with, it's absolutely insane to think that, like, anyone greenlit this stupid ass idea. Again, you know, you might get a pack of 4 of these, which is 4 packs in the box for $1,000, and you might pull cards worth $1. Right? There's no guarantee that the cards in that pack are worth $250. You're basically taking a shot at a chance to open up a Black Lotus that isn't even legal and might not even be worth that much. But it's really opened the door to some interesting things. So this is what the pack contains. So it's 15 cards, 13 cards in the black frame, 1 rare, 3 uncommons, 7 commons, and 2 basic lands, plus 1 basic land in the retro card frame and 1 additional retro framed card. And it's weird because proxies have kind of been taboo for Magic for a long time, right? Like, they're not legal, but, you know, if you're playing with your friends, it's usually kind of understood that you can do it. But now that WotC, Wizards of the Coast, is printing proxies, it kind of begs the question, like, why not just go on Etsy and for $40 you can get a Power 9 professionally printed proxy set with no hassle, and you can just pick it up whenever you want. And to me, it's an interesting concept. I've never used proxies, but if the alternative is spending thousands and thousands of dollars to get a non-legal Black Lotus, why not just spend $40 and get all like the exact cards that you want? And so I think it's brought up an interesting problem for Magic the Gathering, and it's not a huge bit of news for CW, but I thought it was interesting enough that I wanted to bring it up on the Reissue. But what do you guys think about this?
That's fascinating. I have a question for you really quickly, Zach, before Ben goes. Have they released like expensive packs or anything close to this before, or is this like really setting the bar? Okay.
No, this is really 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 like, they make expensive products, right? Like, let's be real, these aren't this isn't an inexpensive hobby, but like if you're spending $1,000, you should expect to get thousands and thousands of cards. So this is that simulator that I was talking about. So if you wanted to pull a Black Lotus, you would spend about $3,000 in theory to maybe get one Black Lotus. But if you wanted to get all the Power 9, you're spending $20,000 to open 84 packs, and that's even if you can get them, right? These are very limited, and they were saying like the website's probably going to crash. You might only be able to get one, but that's with the ratio that they've stated, kind of what you can expect. So
see, GG, it could be way worse.
It could
Hot
be
toys
way
are
worse,
nothing
right?
compared to.
Could be worse.
Could be way worse. Like for example, if I just opened a random pack of 4. These are the rares I would get, and these combined would be worth like $4 or $5. Like it wouldn't.
And you can't even get it though, right? That's the
you
tragic
can't
irony.
get it, and it's not even worth anything. And people were saying like, if it's going to take me $20,000 to get a fake Black Lotus, I could literally buy the real Black Lotus for like $10,000 and be able to use it in a deck, right? So it's a really interesting thing, and they've offended a lot of people, and it's really become a PR nightmare. The Magic the Gathering channels that I follow, they've all taken the piss out of this, and it's it's really like if you think about it, like imagine if Hot Toys, like what's a normal Hot Toys cost, like $250, right? Let me put this into Hot Toys perspective. So let's do 1,000 divided by 4, so 250. So imagine Hot Toys released a Hot Toys figure that was $62,000. Like that's basically the equivalent of what this is, and you only had a chance. It was a random Hot Toys, and you might have a chance to get like, a Dark Side Anakin, but it's also wouldn't be the same as a Dark Side Anakin. It wouldn't be like, it would be different enough that you could tell it was like a fake Dark Side Anakin. It's such a weird
that's bizarre
concept. It makes no sense, and honestly, people were really pissed. Like I remember when I was collecting, they released a set called Modern Masters, and I want to say it was like $50 for like a pack, and that was a tough pill to swallow back then. Maybe it was a little less, but this was like you get reprints of the best cards of Modern that weren't on the ban list or the reserve list, and it sold wonderfully. I thought it was too much. I never bought any, but even at $50 a pack, I think you wouldn't have had as much outrage, because people bought the shit out of Modern Masters, and it would sell out instantly. People would be lined up at the store to buy one pack. But at $1,000 for 4, $250 a pack, you have to buy all 4 packs at once. It's crazy, and there's going to be people that will buy this that do have the money to do it. I have zero doubt they're going to sell out of their quantity, but I think it sets a bad precedent for the hobby, where you're expecting your most loyal fans to pay 250 times the price of product for cards that aren't even legal. You can't even use them in tournaments. It doesn't make any sense to me.
How long until they blame inflation, huh?
Frank is fucking cardboard and fucking aluminum packaging. So,
Well, yeah, I guess the other stupid question. I can read this here. So, Casual Nerd Problem says, "Sup peeps, companies have caught up with the aftermarket prices. This definitely would sell at the same amount secondhand. Nostalgia and FOMO will make this sell out. Makes sense for the company, not for us." Totally agree. I think so. Again, stupid question maybe, because I've never collected cards like this. Like, if you were going to put that kind of money into this, and you ended up getting one of those super rare cards, like, would you ever actually play with it, or is it something that you then would get CGC'd and like
probably,
framed?
probably,
Yeah, Because
Yeah.
I'm like, for that kind of money, like, there ain't no way I'm putting it down on a table with a can of Diet Coke sort of thing. Like, oh, can you imagine how devastated you'd be? Even if it got
Yeah.
a slight crease, it would just, or you'd get robbed. Like, I'd be worried. Like, I wouldn't want to bring it to like, I guess you were saying it's not legal in tournaments, but still, like, that is insane in terms of cost. You'd want it on a wall in plastic casing. Period. I would think.
And
Yeah.
Magic players are notorious for robbing one another, right? Being real tough guys. So
I mean, maybe. I
no,
don't
I'm kidding.
even
That's,
know.
that's a consideration when you're walking around with that type of.
Hey, if I saw
expensive
somebody
item.
with a $20,000 card, I might trip them in the
Wow,
hallway.
Ben,
I'm just
you're that
saying.
guy,
I'm
huh?
just- yeah.
Wow. Wow.
It's funny how it says modern sensibilities. It doesn't seem pretty sensible to
Yeah.
buy any of these things.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember? I think it was last year. They re-released or reissued the Pokemon cards, like the first set. They
Yeah.
did something special. I remember the stores were going nuts, and this was like a wide release, and people are going crazy for these cards, and even Target had to put like printed out signs saying, "Oh, we don't have any Pokemon cards here."
Oh, I do remember
and
that.
people will be lining
Yeah.
up outside the store and everything, and that's for a wide release. The store's only getting one of these, so what's going to happen? They're going to be last man
I don't know how
standing
they're
against the
gonna do it.
pack or something.
Probably a raffle, to be honest. It's just crazy to me, to be honest. But enough about that. I don't want to spend too much time on this. But Ben, we have the Tough Nut Trek news. What do we got here?
Yeah, so there's been a lot coming out with Exo6 lately. Obviously, they've put out probably some of the most releases from any company in such a short period of time for a while. But this Kirk came out about a week ago now, and it was interesting. So the picture on the left, you can see there was an Ultra HD 4K release of the film, so the motion picture, last year or this past year. And it was something that I actually got to see in theaters. It was a really cool to see it kind of remastered and redone. It was definitely needed for the film, and it took it to a new level in terms of enjoyability and watchability for sure. Still not my favorite Star Trek film specifically. I would say from this era of Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Undiscovered Country, some of the other films in their kind of canon, I prefer more. But this was the first film that they'd done, and Kirk here, or William Shatner, he kind of reprised his role as James T. Kirk and came into the movie sphere. And this was the kind of the first like iconic film version of the Star Trek suit that we got a chance to see him wear. Now, in some photos, the suit does look like it's gray and white. In the remastered version, and apparently for what's kind of like reality, it was actually green and white. So they did keep that with the Exo 6 release. If you want to move slides there, Zach. Now, the interesting part about this guy was when this has been teased by Nanjin, the developer of Exo 6, for a while. They keep saying it was coming and kept saying it was coming, but there was no edition size that was listed for this figure. And so he said it was going to go up, and it was going to go up for immediate purchase. So kind of, be ready, but didn't necessarily specify exactly when. It came out a couple days before it was released, that it was releasing on I think it was like the Thursday or the Tuesday. And literally within 3 hours of release on the Exo 6 website, this guy was completely sold out. Gone. Which is crazy. Now, came in at $175 plus $25 shipping on Exo 6's website. He comes with virtually no accessories. Like, basically what you see in this photo is pretty much what he comes with. He doesn't even come with a second pair of hands. He comes with a 1-to-1 scale Delta badge, which I think is cool. Originally, it was supposed to be magnet. I think they switched it to a pin. But that was from Fansets, is the website. And if you missed on this release, but you wanted that Delta badge, you can actually still go to Fansets and buy one, which is kind of cool separately. A little bit of a collaboration there. But in terms of scaled down releases, this had virtually nothing with it. Now, the fact that it sold out that quickly was a bit of a concern, at least for me, only because of a couple of reasons. So first of all, because we had no edition size, nobody knew if they should pre-order it right away or not, unless it was something that you absolutely had to have in your collection. There was no real, for all the other Exo 6 releases, we've had kind of a window. Even the immediate purchase ones, there's been a couple of days where you can kind of warm up to it and decide whether you want it and whatever. I got the notification in the morning that this had been put up on the website, and as I said, by the time I got a chance to make my video on this for the Ben Thomas show, that afternoon it was already gone. Pre-orders did go up on Sideshow. Sideshow is already at waitlist. The only other place I've seen it now that was still available for a pre-order status, I think, was Pop Culture. That was yesterday, but even still, hard to know if, we're going to get an email from them at some point to say, oops, sorry, kind of overpromised, it's gone. Because the next slide here, Zach, if you want to go to it, Ninja, the developer, he put on this Facebook there just the other day, that kind of like buyer beware. There is no more, even for him, apparently being like the developer of this company. He got one and that is it. Like, they are sold out, they're gone. If you damage your figure, there's no replacement parts. You'll just get your money back. Like, that's it. Like, if you got your hands on one, great. If not, you're shit out of luck. So again,
Seems like a bad strategy.
It seems
little bit
terrible.
a
It
little bit
seems
of a bad
terrible.
strategy. He also made it sound in his Facebook that he basically kind of like launched a grenade into the production side, which was basically like, we've decided that, no, we're not like, that's it. Like, the mold is done for this guy. Like, if you got him, great, good for you. That's it. He's off the production line. I think he said he literally burned and
deleted the
the
files.
molds and the files.
Yeah.
Like kind of like super aggressive, which doesn't make sense. I get making something super limited. I think that's okay. But if it's going to be that limited, at least tell people how limited it's going to be at some kind of edition size. So you could be, kind of like movie tickets, or not movie tickets, I said concert tickets or Nikes or any of those types of things. Like, you can be ready on the website hovering over the click button, because again, this is going to skyrocket this guy in terms of value, I'm sure, on the aftermarket. Some people probably got a couple. Hopefully you got a second one just in case you damage your first, so you can have some replaceable parts yourself, or sell your replaceable parts on the aftermarket and probably pay for the figure itself. The next figure in this lineup is the Spock that they've teased. And they're saying that the Spock is going to have a very similar style of release window. It's going to go up for immediate purchase. And then, like, let's be honest, like, is it going to be gone just as quickly? I think the challenging part there is that if a lot of people didn't get the Kirk, should you even justify getting the Spock? I mean, Spock just might be your favorite character, but can you have a Spock without the Kirk, especially from this film, and feel like you have a complete collection, right? And then the bearded McCoy, they have teased that as well. I think the bearded McCoy looks like a hobo. I think he's kind of funny looking, but it is very iconic of a look for Bones. So I think that's pretty cool. But these are the three so far from this film. I think if I was going to consider this for my own collection, obviously I missed on the Kirk myself. I had an opportunity to pull the trigger on a pre-order with Sideshow and decided not to, because I wanted to I was hoping to see what these guys would look like in hand before I made that decision. Some of the Exo 6's releases haven't been the greatest. Like, some of them have been really strong, and then others have been a little on the weak side, like the Catherine Janeway and the Michael Burnham. Some of those ones were a little soft. So I was worried that people would jump on this guy and then it would end up being soft in hand. But it's hard to know. We're never really going to get a chance to know until people start receiving them now.
You're not going to know if it's soft in hand, Ben?
Yeah, tough nut. I think the interesting part, too, is that they want to keep the release window really small in terms of getting it out to people. So they had said this was going to be a 21-day turnaround. That was already about 10 days ago now that this release came out. So that gives another kind of 10 days, I would say, for people to start really seeing these in their collections and in hand. And we'll have an opportunity to see what it looks like. But if it was...
MWC Toys actually has their review up already on this one.
Nice.
So people do have this in hand,
Some
but
people
I'll
have
be completely honest. This is one of the stupidest fucking things I have ever seen. I don't understand I understand wanting to keep something limited. I 100% understand that, and I guess if deleting the files is your way of resisting that temptation in the future, that's fine. But I think it's the hallmark of a good company to be able to have replacements, parts available. Ben, you might order this, you might spend your money, and it might get lost, right, in shipping. That is 100% a thing that does happen on occasion. You might be posing your figure and something may break on it, which is a common issue enough that I've seen many reports on some of these Facebook groups in Exo 6. Not that Hot Toys and other companies don't have that problem,
Sure.
but I think for you to intentionally not have replacement parts, or even accidentally, or oversell to that point where you do not, is a terrible business practice. Now, I have not seen Star Trek the motion picture, but I would assume that this character is quite important, from what I know of Star Trek, to having this full crew, right? Can you imagine if you finally get the full crew after a year or two, and then you break something on your Kirk, or something gets damaged, and your only option is paying absorbent secondary prices? Now, obviously, in that case, replacement parts wouldn't particularly help you, but even just getting it right out of the box. Let's say there's a stain on your figure's outfit, and that's not your fault at all. I think that's a terrible, terrible precedent. I've seen it with Hot Toys figures that arrive with stains on them, with many other figures, and to me, it's a weird business practice. Now, he's said in the past, Nanjim, that there's no extra copies of figures in the past, but he's never gone to this point. Like, I thought it was implied back then, and we talked about in our Patreon chat, like, what if someone's thing arrives damaged, whatever. But for him to basically blatantly say there are no exchanges or replacement parts, to me, is crazy.
Well, and Sean
I think
Forster
it's a terrible, terrible practice, and I don't like it.
Sean Forster nailed it, in my opinion, here too, with his comment, because he says Star Trek, the motion picture, is considered one of the worst films. Without the limited feature, this might have just sat. And that's kind of where I was at when I first saw pictures of this figure. I was like, well, I'll wait for the Wrath of Khan versions. Like, those to me are more iconic films, suits. They come with a lot more features and accessories and all of the things. Better movie overall. When people think of the original movies, the Wrath of Khan is almost the first one people say. The only reason that I liked this film more was because of the 4K update that I mentioned at the beginning there. It did make the movie better. But still, it's definitely not my favorite offering. I agree. I think the fact that it's gone was because it was so limited. Casual Nerd Problems also asked, if it's something that, like, a numbered edition, or if this is kind of just a one-off, like, what would sit better with collectors. For me, I think if they were going to make it this limited, then they should have numbered it at least, but told people that it's, limited to 300 or limited to whatever it ended up being. Because again, for everybody who's got a pre-order still in other places like Sideshow or Pop Culture, some of those areas, like, are they even going to get stock if Nanjin himself can't replace his own stained outfit? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Like you said, Zach, It doesn't even make sense. So I think it's a bad business practice for them to be so aggressive. I do think that he's trying to appeal to the people who don't like reissues and say basically, like, we won't reissue it. But you can draw that line in the sand without devastating your files. Like, Exo 6 is notorious for having wrist peg breaks on their figures.
Yeah.
And they don't even give you any additional wrist pegs in the box. So if you break a wrist peg, and they're not necessarily standard pegs, like, you can't just take a Hot Toys one and swap it over, they say that you have to send your whole figure back for a wrist peg, which also doesn't make any sense. So, like, again, not that you can swap hands for this guy, because he doesn't come with anything else. Like, what you see here is what you get. If you break a wrist even, like, you're toast. That's it. You're up shit's creek. Like, what are you going to do? Send your one-of-a-kind Kirk back? I wouldn't even trust it. Like, so you'd end up gluing it in, and that would be it. So I think people will gravitate more to the Wrath of Khan figures that are coming down the line in terms of, like, what they actually want in their collection. I think the people who grab these were definitely looking at the limited release option of it. For some people, it's probably their favorite film, but not necessarily for me. I agree with Sean.
So to clarify, he does come with fists. So he does have one set of hands. But even just looking at this outfit here, like, I mean, there's certainly spots all over this outfit, and I don't think that the reviewer has done this to their figure. But if you're telling me that right out of the box, like, I'm screwed that I can't get a replacement to these spots that are all over this figure, like, I don't know. I don't love that. Like, that, I mean, that's clearly, like, that would piss me off if there was this white outfit with, like, 7 or 8 little gray dots on it, and I'm basically being told that, hey, you got a refund, or that's it. It's just weird.
And I know Bill Shatner is notoriously hard to... he's one of those faces that's notoriously a little hard to sculpt, it sounds like. I do think this looks like him. I think that the
Oh, I have no
offering
problem with the
itself for the
portrait.
price and all that. I think it's okay. Like even though, as I said, that he comes very bare bones, I think it was a good price for it. It's just, it's the experience for the collector. I think is the challenging part. At least
Yeah.
for them.
No, I have no problems with the price, the portrait. I think the portrait's maybe a bit dark. You know, if we're saying Gandalf is a bit dark, I think this is a bit dark also. Again, it's a white outfit
Gandalf,
though.
yeah.
So
I cannot stop laughing at the deleted the files, burned the mold, shot the artist that sculpted it. Like, why is it so dramatic?
I picture him walking into the factory with like grenades and just like toast. You know?
I think overall this is my rating of this figure.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
Anyways, Marco, 1/6 fix your segment here. Tell us what we got.
Yeah, do you have another clip about what I'm looking most forward to with my segments?
Well, I think I'm looking forward to cracking up. I hope I can, totally crack up. So, I haven't, totally cracked up in a long time.
What the fuck?
another
Oops, sorry, I got to click too many buttons.
Gosh. Love that clip, bro. When you brought that up, I was dying. Yeah, so PSVR 2. So my segment will be called the 1/6 fix, and I'm totally not going to talk about any 1/6 today. So, but yeah, PSVR 2 has been announced. It's coming out in February of next year. $549. So that does come
God
with
damn.
the updated controllers. Yeah. It's insanely expensive. Ben, what did you pay for your God of War bundle?
For my bundle Canadian, I got it for $860, and that came with an extra controller. And that was right at GameStop. So with American, that would probably be what, $6.99, somewhere in that range.
Okay, got it. So yeah, so near the price of this, right? And this will end up,
Almost double it.
you know, right? So this will end up costing just about as much as the console at the end of the day. I do have the PSVR 1, and I love it, honestly. Like, it's really rudimentary. Like the contrast and the resolution is really low. So I'm excited to see what PlayStation does for this next level. But this was a really niche product. I don't think PSVR sold like insanely well. I know it was popular in terms of VR offerings. But yeah, this is kind of an insane price point. But I do appreciate that they're trying to, compete with the higher end units. And obviously with the popularity of PS5, they're probably thinking like, okay, here's just another thing that we can sell. But yeah, I'm very tempted, but I think I'm going to stick with the PSVR 1. Zach, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, that kind of has some of the specs. So it's got OLED screens, which is pretty awesome, right? So on the OLED, you'll get the really rich blacks and really high resolution. So the panel resolution, I don't know what, I'm seeing numbers here, but I don't know necessarily what that's going to mean until I put it on. But it seems like it's really improved. And then obviously the refresh rate. So it should be a lot more immersive. And I just kind of wanted to talk about VR really quick in your guys' experience. I know Zach has a unit, but even the PSVR 1, like I was saying, it's pretty low resolution, but it doesn't take too much to trick your brain into thinking like you're in a different place. And I was like pretty blown away the first time I tried VR. I was in a Best Buy. They had like PSVR, like a demonstration basically. So the guy sat me in the chair and he's like, oh, you can choose whichever adventure you want. And I chose like underwater. I was like, oh, underwater sounds cool. Well, they lower you in a cage until there's like a great white shark that's swimming around your cage. There's like all these strangers around me watching me do it. I was fucking sweating. It was terrifying. But after that experience, I was like, I need to have one of these immediately. So VR is like one of those things that you can't really appreciate until you actually try it. So Zach, maybe I'll start with you and then see what everyone else is.
So I have the MetaQuest 2 or the Oculus 2, and I love it. It is awesome. I don't really play a lot of like realistic games, so I have like a combat simulator game where you like have swords and you're like, fucking slashing goblins and stuff, and it's pretty fun. I've played a lot of Beat Saber, a lot of table tennis, and what's really nice is the physics of it, right? So I don't play table tennis, so I wouldn't know, but there are professional table tennis players that say the feel and the physics of the way the ball interacts, putting the spin on the ball and everything is very accurate. There are some things that are maybe a little bit easier in VR, with a grain of salt, of course, but the fact that you're able to simulate a table tennis match, and I can play with Cody in Washington table tennis and have a fairly fun, realistic experience is insane. The graphics, like you said, I mean, you're not getting 4K VR, unfortunately, but yeah, it does work with Pornhub, of course. But it works pretty well. And there are times, there's a roller coaster game that we have where you really do feel like the pit of your stomach kind of fall out when you're, going through the different tracks. So I think the Oculus is, I think, the gold standard, or what everything would be compared to for VR, in my opinion. I just think it's the best one at the moment, but I'm very interested for this price point because I think you can get the Oculus for like $300, brand new.
And it's
So
all wireless, right? There's no wire coming
yeah,
out
there's
of the...
yeah. I mean, you could. Some people do. The battery lasts about like 2 or 3 hours, but some people have it where they have like a battery pack hooked up to the headset. So you basically drain the battery pack first, and you kind of like double your battery life. But yeah, the entire thing is wireless. Even like when you play on your PC, it's all wireless. It's like, I think it's like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or something like that. But yeah, no, actually, I take that back. When I did Flight Sim VR, which didn't work particularly well because my computer sucks, that I did hook in through USB-C to reduce the latency. But I mean, you can also play it completely wirelessly.
Yeah, and so that's like the one downside with this, the PlayStation ones, is they always have a cord. This one, it seems like they've simplified it to just have one cord, because with the current VR setup, it's like a mess of wires and boxes, and it's really unsightly. So I had to like hide it really well because I hate cords. And one other thing, horror is like incredible in this. Like I tried Resident Evil 7 for about 5 minutes, and I was like, fuck no, like I can't do this, and I had to play the game in 2D. But Ben, what's your experience with VR?
So it's funny because I've wanted really good VR, I think, for my entire life, especially from my love of Star Trek. I always loved the holodeck on Star Trek The Next Generation. I always thought that was like a really cool concept. And so for me in the video game world, some of my favorite video games of all time are the ones that have world exploration, where you can, climb to the top of a mountain, similar to like, Valhalla, Assassin's Creed. You can climb to the top of a mountain and look around, and everywhere you can go, or everywhere you can see, I should say, you can go. Putting that into VR is something that I've wanted really well done.
And you can play Skyrim on this.
Yeah, so the only game that I've tried on VR though is No Man's Sky. And that's a really fun game for the very same reason, right? You can go up into space, you can look down on planets, you can go down onto planets and explore whole planets. Like, you can walk around, they just like dig holes, like just, you can do all the shit. But it's just like really immersive, just being able to kind of feel like you're standing on a planet that you landed on, which I really, really like. For me, the price is definitely a little bit of a deterrent on this new unit, though. Like you said, Marco, like, for me, I just got the PS5 finally, after, 2 years of searching for them. Like, I finally was able to get one. It'll be curious how many of these they actually make. Like, how readily available are they even going to be?
It's probably going to be a really limited run at first, like the first unit, I'd assume, to build that
right?
FOMO.
And that's it. Like, the price is expensive. There's no way I'm going to spend $1,000 to get it secondary or from a scalper who got it first. So if they don't make a lot of them, it's going to be something that I probably don't even touch for another year or two. The other thing is that obviously I would hope that Sony, and I think DJ actually said it in the chat here really well, like, I would hope that Sony really supports the VR then, if that's the case. If this is going to be the price, if this is the direction they're going, I don't want it to just be gimmicky. I want like games that are really developed for the VR system. I want them to really dial it in and make it worth the money, because otherwise it will be something that is something I throw on occasionally, and then it sits and kind of collects dust for long stretches of time between games that I would use it for or not. So that will be a bit of a wait and see, I think, in terms of
and I think
whether
this is kind of
justified.
This is kind of like a fool me once situation, where it's like the first one they supported a bit and they had some really good games, but it wasn't like an incredible catalog, and they haven't really said that it's like fully backwards compatible. So who knows? It's kind of wait and see, like you said, on the support from Sony.
The only other thing that I'd say about VR, and it was same with 3D, like when 3D was becoming a big thing, 3D always gave me a headache. VR is the same way. I can only play for about an hour, and then I start getting kind of like a a headache from the vision, and like I don't wear glasses anymore. I got LASIK surgery a few years ago, so even that like is at least kind of a win. I might not have that same experience because I previously was trying to do it with corrected vision, but we'll see. We'll see. If they don't give me a headache, I can get some longevity out of it, and they really support it. I think it would be something that I'd consider.
There you go. And Equan, have you had any experience?
I only played one game, and it was Resident Evil 7. I don't know how far you got into the game, but I got to the dining room situation where I had to escape, and that gave me some heart palpitations.
Yeah,
and
not
I
even
never
that
got out
far.
of there. Yeah, and no, that's the only time. And then I had a patient that apparently, if you're prone to epilepsies, then you can have seizures from using the VR headset. So this one patient was on the second floor living room, and they had a seizure, and they fell down the stairs and fractured their ankle. So be on the first floor and make sure you don't have seizures when you, or don't have symptoms of seizures when you use this
Very
thing.
good advice. Holy
Wow.
cow.
Doctors in the house.
Jesus.
Wow.
They should put that in the warning label.
It really should.
You may fall downstairs. Very interesting stuff there. We have one more segment, our Mommy and Daddy of the Month, which is, I think, a fan favorite by this point, even though it's our first episode. So, Marco, this is our favorite male and female protagonists from this month. So I'll let you, or we will introduce rather, the Mommies of the Month. So go ahead and take us away, Marco.
Yeah, so, Mommy of the Month, Daddy of the Month, what does that mean? I think it's just like the most badass characters from all of the properties that we love, right? So
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt if they're attractive, but it's not objectifying them. It could be a really well-rounded character. So first, Lupita Nyong'o, Nakia from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. So incredibly beautiful and badass in that film. So had to give her a nod. Mommy Bix, obviously.
Of course.
If you haven't seen Andor yet, what are you doing? You got to see Andor, but Bix was really a standout character. And then old and young Princess Rhaenyra and Alicent Hightower. I think all of those iterations of the character really resonated with me personally, and I know, Zach, you and I have been chatting a lot about these, but which one of these stand out?
I think Olivia Cook stands out, honestly. Absolute baddie. No, but I think her portrayal of Alicent, I honestly think going to win some kind of Emmy. Like, if not shocked, I would be shocked. Bix was great also. Obviously, had gone through quite a lot in Andor. I don't want to spoil anything, but real crazy. Nikita, Black Panther was such a great movie, and I thought she was one of my favorite parts of the movie, to be honest. Which is surprising. I didn't even know she was going to be in the movie, to be honest, because I don't think she was in any of the commercials. So
I think just this one shot. So I didn't want to put any spoilers, but they showed her in this one shot in the trailer.
I think you're right. Yeah, but I think these are all great choices. I think the nerddom, we've had a lot of great, really important female leads, which is always great to see. And yeah, I'm excited for next month. See what the nerddom brings us.
So for me, it's a hard selection because all of them really brought some badassery to their characters. One of the things that I liked about all four offerings here was that it wasn't hard to say. It wasn't like shoved down your throat that it's like, look how badass these women are. It was just they were because they were, and I think that was a really strong takeaway from all of this castings. I'm having a hard time deciding which one was my favorite because I liked them all for very different reasons. But I would say for me, my favorite probably was Lupita, actually. In the Black Panther, I went and saw that film by myself during the day, and she was one of the characters in the film that I liked the most. And again, I want to try not to give away any spoilers just in case people haven't seen it, but the one scene where she is in charge of kind of a rescue operation there, like, very badass, very, very badass character. And so but again, all of them I think were fantastic offering. I would just say that for at this point, Lupita was probably my favorite.
I haven't seen Black Panther 2 yet, but I think for me it's between Mommy Bix and
Mommy Binks, bro.
Olivia
That's
Cook.
different. It's a different. I don't
No,
want to know
that's
about
a
Mommy Binks.
completely different category. That's in the other category. So it's between Bix and Olivia Cook's character. So yeah, towards the end of the season, she looked a little worse than for her wear than Olivia Cook. Now it's hard to really decide. I guess I'll pick the I'll pick the Queen for this one. Olivia Cook for that one. I mean, she does have a little
Smart
bit of
choice.
a hammer toe situation, but I mean, it's all right. I mean, it's a
I
little
figured
bit of a
you'd appreciate it for
Wait,
that
hang
alone.
on. Here we go.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
Yeah, but it's forgivable. It's fine.
Now I need to look
Yeah.
up what hammer toe is.
Yeah. Equan says I may have a hammer toe, so who knows? All I gotta say is for Olivia Cook,
that's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
bro. That Savage Fenty commercial, some gabagool right
That
there.
was an eye opener.
For Daddies of the Month, because we're equal opportunity here. This is I don't know this actor's name, but he's coming on Creed 3 and
Jonathan
then the
Majors.
MCU. Thank you, Jonathan Majors.
you don't know,
dude,
you will
he
know.
is fucking yoked in Creed. Holy Jesus! I remember when they said he was gonna be in the MCU, and I was looking up. We were just like looking up the actor. He didn't look that big, and I was thinking like this motherfucker's gonna be, what's his character? The Conqueror.
King the
Anyone?
Conqueror.
Kang the
yeah.
Conqueror. Thank you. That was Krang. We got
TM with
Namor, aka
Different category.
Marco, Damon, and Andor. I gotta give it to Andor, bro. What a fucking, and that's a hard one because Namor was fucking awesome too, and Damon was awesome. I think Kang. I don't think we've just seen him like in trailers and like kind of getting bulked up for the role. So, but he is pretty yoked. But dude, Andor is such a fucking badass character. Like, bro, the season finale, like the whole season to be honest, but the finale especially, incredible, absolutely incredible. I got to give it to Andor. What a great show. What a great actor. I'll be honest, I wasn't excited for Andor. I didn't think it really needed to have a show. But honestly, now I can't wait until the next season. Like, it was such a banger show.
Such a great fucking show.
And just real quick, that message isn't about the woman, for fuck's sake. I just watched the intro for this show on replay. What does that even mean? That message isn't about the woman, for fuck's sake. I
He
don't know
said
what that
something
means.
about an eyegasm. Didn't know my eyes could orgasm, and he meant that was about the introduction and not the mommies of the month.
Oh, there you go. We'll play that again here in a second.
Yeah.
So, Alberto, the question isn't pick two for a threesome. Initially, we were just going to pick like the
That is a
hottest
question,
female
though.
actresses of the month, but then all of our significant others were like, well, you should do it for the men too, for the ladies to watch. And we're like, you know what? It's 2022. Of course, right? Let's look at some of these handsome male leads that we have on our eyes have been blessed with. Of course, Marco picked the most fucking seductive photo for Kang the Conqueror. My goodness.
Bro, come on. You can't look at that and not feel something. I'm just
Alberto
saying.
says he picks Marco, so he wants to have a threesome with Marco, I guess. Anyways, what do we think here?
So for me, I do agree that Andor, again, I won't give anything away in the show, but that show blew me away. It went from being a show that I literally wasn't looking forward to at all, to easily one of my favorite shows, I think, of all time. Would I choose him as Daddy of the Week, though? No. I would go
month.
back to... Of the month, sorry. Thank you. I would go back to Daddy of the Week. I would go back to Marco or Namor. I think Namor was very cool. He was I wasn't familiar with his comic representation. I honestly up till now hadn't really known anything about the character. When I heard that there might be a character that could have like wings on his ankles, I was like, that sounds really random and like what? And like I wasn't excited about it. And after seeing the film, I was like immediately thinking like 6 scale, like I want a figure in my collection. There's a couple of scenes where I'm hoping that they give us that in figure form. Very cool. Damon, I did like Damon throughout the season. There were aspects of Damon that I really didn't like in Game of Thrones, and then I kind of warmed up to him, and then I kind of hated him again. So like it was a bit of a roller coaster with Damon, and obviously we haven't seen Creed 3 yet. I think Jonathan Majors is going to be insane in that movie, like intense. And he's a beautiful man, let's be honest. But just the acting chops of the actor who played Namor and what he brought, I think, to that film was amazing. So I'm really excited to again hopefully get a 6-scale representation of the character in my collection. Hopefully, but he's the pick for the month for me, 100%.
Yeah, I guess I have a little bit of a Latin bias, so it would be Andor and Namor as the top two for me. I haven't seen Black Panther yet, so I'm not too sure about his character, but I did see Andor. Now, if you want a reliable guy that says he's going to come back for you, then Andor is your man. So I guess I'll pick Andor for this one. And also, in our household, the wife's all about Diego Luna too. So, yeah.
Love the criteria right there. Yeah.
Right.
And I would apply the same, honestly. This is a tough choice. I think Jonathan Majors may be a bit premature. I think he's going to have a hell of a year coming up when we see him in a lot of films. Hot Toys might have to invest in some new bodies, honestly, if they make figures for him. The dude is just absolutely yoked. I'm going to give it to Namor, and this is both from myself and Gigi. Gigi's obsessed with him. Like, she thinks he's, like, his representation in the film was awesome. And on the representation front, I just love that 2 Latinos in properties that I love, like Star Wars and Marvel. It's just really cool to have that. So we're going to give the nod to Namor.
Tell me you're going to do this for Halloween next year, though, right? You're going to get your
Please,
ears
bro. I will
brush up the
give
hair a
that
little
money.
bit. You could easily shave your beard to look like this. Like, dude, come on. You
please.
have to have a Halloween stream as
You know,
next
neck
year.
up, but I've been in the gym, but I'm going to have to do 3 days to pull off. Like, the dude was just
all we
ripped.
see you is from the neck up. We just need to see you with those
There you
beads
go.
and
All right.
some earrings.
Yeah.
That I can
You
do
have
easily.
to do it, dude.
Have your buddy
That'd be
3D
amazing.
print some of that shit and fucking
Heck
get a
yeah.
broom and put some fucking
We got
gold
it.
paint on it.
Put some
I want
leaves
to
on
see.
your ears and
I
stuff.
want to see you as
There you
Kukulkan
go.
next year.
All
bro.
right, next year, I'm going to promise it.
Anyways, that's our show for today. I really appreciate everyone coming in for the inaugural episode of the Reissue. We'll play the intro one more time, and then we'll say our goodbyes. But I think it deserves a reissue on the intro. What do you think, Marco?
100%.
Yeah, love it. We gotta run that back.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. And another one.
Let's ride.
What a legendary
Man, that score
intro.
kills me. I love it.
Gigi says obsessed is an understatement. Please don't compare Marco to Namor. It's going to ruin it for me.
Wow.
Anyways, thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate everyone that watched today. We'll be uploading this to Ben and Marco's channel here within the next hour or so. But yeah. Yeah, Gigi loves it too. Anyways, I'm Zach.
Hi, Ben.
I'm Marco.
I'm Equan.
Let's ride, babies.
See you guys.